You ever watch the Olympics and see something kind of weird on the medal podium? I mean, you look at the bronze medalist and they're just beaming, pure joy. But then you glance over at the silver medalist and their expression is, well, it's a lot more complicated. And you know what? That's not just a one-off. It's a clue that tells us something really fascinating about how all of our brains are wired. So, let's just put it out there. You've got these three athletes, right? They're at the absolute top of their game. Looking at them on that podium, who's the happiest? And maybe the more interesting question, who's the least happy?
I mean, common sense would tell you that happiness should line up perfectly with the medals, right? Gold means you're on top of the world. Silver, you're super happy. Bronze, you're still pretty thrilled, just maybe a little less. It should just be a straight shot down from first to third.
Yeah, but what researchers find is not that at all. Not even close. In fact, what psychology tells us completely flips that whole idea on its head. It turns out our feelings have way less to do with the actual result than you'd think.
Okay, so let's dig into this, starting with the agony of silver. Let's really zero in on that person who came in second place. I mean, it's an unbelievable achievement, so they've got to be ecstatic, right? Well, very often, their mind is in a totally different place.
See, for the silver medalist, the event isn't even over. It's just playing again and again on a loop, right in their head. They're totally consumed by that tiny, tiny margin that kept them from gold. All they can think is, if only. If only I just pushed a little harder, or if only I hadn't made that one tiny slip up.
And this, right here, is the key. Their brain isn't celebrating winning a silver medal. It's actually mourning the loss of the gold. The only person they're comparing themselves to is the one standing one step higher. And when you look at it that way, second place doesn't feel like a win. It feels like you're the first one who lost.
Okay, but now let's talk about the bronze medalist, the relief of bronze. They're on the lowest step, but so often you look at them and they are just radiating pure joy. So, what's going on there? Why are they so happy?
Well, their internal monologue is the complete opposite of the silver medalist. They're not thinking about what they almost won. They're thinking about what they almost lost. They know they were just one tiny mistake, maybe a millisecond, away from not getting a medal at all.
And this is what changes the entire picture. Their point of comparison isn't the person standing above them. It's the person who finished fourth, the person who goes home empty-handed. When you compare yourself to that, getting any medal feels like a huge win. They're just thrilled to be on the podium.
So let's recap. You've got two different athletes, two different medals, but two completely different emotional worlds. And this isn't just some quirky Olympic story. This gets to the very core of how our brains are wired and how we're all a little bit obsessed with that one tiny question: what if?
So, what's the actual psychological principle at play here? Well, there's a name for this kind of what-if thinking, and once you understand it, it explains so much about how we all handle both success and failure. It's called counterfactual thinking. Now, that sounds like a big, fancy term, but I promise it's something you do all day, every day. It's just our brain's habit of comparing what really happened to some other imagined version of events, a counterfact. And all of our feelings, they live in that gap between what is and what could have been. And this creates two totally different paths in our minds. For the silver medalist, that what if is an upward comparison. If only I'd gotten gold. That frames the whole thing as a loss. But for the bronze medalist, it's a downward comparison. At least I got a medal. And that frames it as a pure gain. It's the exact same event, but they're telling themselves two completely different stories about it. So really, it all boils down to which direction you're looking. The silver medalist looks up at the gold they almost had. The bronze medalist looks down at getting no medal at all, which they just barely avoided. One direction leads to regret, and the other leads to pure relief.
Okay, look, this is a really cool story about the Olympics, for sure. But why should you care? What does this have to do with us? Well, it's because this little mental trick of comparing outcomes, it's not just for elite athletes. We are all doing it all the time.
And this really gets to the big takeaway here. Our happiness isn't actually based on objective reality, on what we achieve. It's based on the comparison we make, that invisible yardstick we decide to measure it against. The result might be a fact, but how we feel about it is totally up for grabs. Just think about your own life. You get a 92 on a test and you feel awesome, until you find out your friend got a 93. Ouch, suddenly it stings. Or you get a 3% raise at work, which is great, until you overhear that your coworker got
4%. All of a sudden, your win feels like a loss. And think about a near miss on the highway. It's terrifying in the moment, but afterward, you're flooded with relief. It's all about that counterfactual, that what if. So I want to leave you with a question to chew on. What almosts are shaping your reality right now? Are you focused on the if-onlys, the things you almost had? Or are you looking at the at leasts, the bad outcomes you almost had but didn't? Because honestly, just noticing which direction you're looking might be the secret to finding the gold in your own bronze medal moments.